In the book reading session, we will read from Showers of Divine Grace. The title of this article is Yearning to Reach the Ultimate. This was his last message on his birthday given in Surat in 1982. So we'll read this. Dear sisters and brothers, there are miseries all around for the embodied one. Even then, we remain so much attached to the body that this thing does not forsake us up to the end. And we even wish to be born again. That means all of us are so much attached to the body that we don't want to forsake that attachment. And we even wish to be born again. So it is, we have to contemplate all these things deeply so that whether we have to put this question, whether we are having this feeling or not, whether we have contemplated enough or not. Because all of any embodied person, misery will be there. It matters little that the wish is for being born in a prosperous home or in a royal family, since as soon as the name, individualized existence has arisen, my brethren, misery would start in howsoever subtle mold it might be cast. The moment we become embodied, pain and misery is guaranteed actually. So nobody can escape from it. Our gathering, however, is somewhat different. We, that is the human beings, are there from where nothing comes to us by way of knowledge, even about our own selves. That means we possess that stability in a natural way, which can be described as a stance of balanced balance. Everything has started after it. In other sense, we were there when the creator, preserver, and destroyer, that means Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, had not yet come into being. Now, what is there? Greatness. It's an exclamation mark afterward. What is the state of that balanced balance from where our gathering is coming? All of us who are gathered here to listen to him are coming from a place which he describes it as a balanced balance. And he says in that Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh came into existence after us. Now, what is their greatness? No. What is the destination? Where we have to reach? He's putting a question, what is the destination? Where we have to reach? It may preferably be called insignificance, if we choose to designate it as such. It is an insignificance of which we know nothing. That means the goal we are reaching is the nature of insignificance, of which we know nothing, he says. And he puts an exclamation mark and also adds greatness of a sort, which is similitude, where no knowledge of similitude itself is to be found. And this, dear brethren, is the real essence. In a way, he is giving us the idea of the destination, which we should have a clear idea in our mind when we are thinking about the presence of divine light in our heart. Divine light should evoke all these feelings which he has described just now. So unless we have that idea, we will not be correctly meditating, or we are not understood the whole mission of Babuji Maharaj, actually. If we consider ourselves great, we put up a wall to that greatness where we have to arrive. We create a bondage, so to say, that becomes an obstruction on the path. What is the harm? When we assume greatness, we start considering others as low. That means insignificant. Now that path which we have to trudge also gets closed, and we are wholly lost to all intents and purposes. Somebody takes it on his mind that he excels someone else in some particular way that assumes various forms, and we strengthen egoism for nothing without getting anything in return. We blow our own trumpet in our own thoughts and lose a lot in the process. The point I feel we should ponder is somebody takes it on his mind that he excels someone else in some particular way that assumes various forms. If you think you're a good doctor, if you think you're a good computer technician, you think you're a good father or husband than other people, you think you're a good cook or mechanic engineer, whatever profession you think you're better than any other person, he says we are strengthening egoism for nothing without getting anything in return. We blow our own trumpet in our own thoughts and lose a lot in the process. This requires contemplation again. I'll go to the next paragraph. To stiffen one's neck is a defect. Stiffen one's neck means it is egoism only. So long as it is not removed, one is not aware of one's own base. What I mean base is that when a person is wholly rid of this defect, there arises a state which has been attempted to be translated by the use of this word. That means base. That means almost like a homeland only. You reach the base, and that you will reach the base when this egoism or the stiffening of one's neck is gone. To live in that state is human culture. When that state grows a bit denser, it enters the region of the absolute attribute of poverty or humility. When such a state is achieved, then the subject of the Lord becomes a subject in the real sense. To achieve such a state, hundreds of transmissions and prayers are prescribed. Man ought never be away from his own level, and this level is called abudiyat, that is the subdued. This is the essential object for the subject of the Lord. It is here, as I have written so often, that the burden of egoism is very much lightened. The fulfillment of purpose comes after this. The better way may be that whatever you are, you go with all of it towards that ultimate purpose. That is, there should remain nothing whose face does not get turned to that side, which means that all the belongings, physical and spiritual, that may be there, be surrendered to him, so that you are left with nothing in yourself except remembrance. Now the question arises, how to arrive at that state? That one thing, remembrance, brings everything in its trail. If remembrance is there, take it for granted the remembered one is close to you. Let closeness in the trail of increasing heat of remembrance be enhanced, and then behold what bliss and ecstasy follows, and also how quickly you reach there with its help. When this thing has approached the limit which constitutes the beginning, that is, if perchance it has touched that plane, region, or circle, be sure the call bell at the door of the beloved would have been pressed. When he has come to know that someone happens to be his real seeker and lover, then it would become a sure condition for his coming close to you and for breaking the barrier that held you from entering the home. Start a while, dear, and then you will know what this thing happens to be. Once this attainment has set in, that means once the God's attention is turned on you, or you become a cynosure of his eyes, then that's an attainment has set in. You would have achieved godly attributes. Now, having reached the attribute, say you have come into the sunshine. It has become clear that this light is from the sun. Prior to it, we were aware of only our own attributes. Now your swimming has started in what lies just beyond God, that is just after it. Having come up to here, we now get tidings of going still ahead. When remembrance has progressed to the extent that the awareness of remembrance itself is lost, then the form of remembrance gets changed. And this we know on moving beyond it. He's not even describing it. He says you will come to know when you move beyond it. Then he makes this exclamation mark, which is today's diary saying, one is unaware to the extent that he is aware. जिसको जितना होश है उतना ही वह बेहोश है. It will be premature to reveal it. The tidings of this on arriving at that state will come when one automatically starts trying to reach it by oneself. The simple fact of the matter anyway remains that whatever is there, be surrendered to him. If the Lord be had at the cost of your head, you should know that the bargain is quite cheap. Sheesh diye yadi hari mile, to bhi sasta jaan. The sages of yore have regarded the state of acceptance of and happiness in Lord's will as surrender. Now I give a prescription, yearning, pure and simple to reach him and him alone. If the real thing is not there to begin with, just imitate it. If someone continually imitates a mad person, he is bound to go mad. Even so, if a man continues to reach the Lord, ultimate, the real is bound to be his lot. At last, Amen. So this was his, in 82 he gave last birthday celebration in Surat. Afterwards, 83, 19 April, he left the physical body. So we will take it as one of his last message. It's a plea. He's making a plea like start a wild deer. He is asking all of us to be deer. He says, start a wild deer and then you will know what this thing happens to be. That means remembrance and all that. So if we will try to read it again and again, try to contemplate and try to imbibe his one of his last messages, and then he gives you a motivation. He says, now the question is how to arrive at that state of that balanced condition. That one thing, remembrance brings everything in its trail. If remembrance is there, take it for granted the remembered one is close to you. Now, as we are reading him, we will feel his presence. We will feel a kind of a satisfaction and happiness in our hearts actually, because our mind is entertaining his thoughts and his thoughts are not separate from his being. So in a way, directly we are touching him. Let closeness in the trail of increasing heat of remembrance be enhanced. And then behold, what bliss and ecstasy follows. He's giving you what will happen if you remember him. He says, what bliss and ecstasy follows. And also how quickly you reach there with itself. So let us actually try to practice this remembrance. Remembrance is trying to feel his presence. Feeling is the calmness and tranquility is where feeling his presence only. We should be alert and vigilant not to allow this feeling to get lost. If you are alert, we can hold on to this feeling as long as we want it. So that's all today's reading. If anything anybody wants to comment or anybody wants to talk about it.
Yes, sir. Babuji Maharaj used word yearning multiple times.
Yeah, yearning, yes.
And
even in that
yearning
centenary message also he says yearning, he says. Yearning bole to
चाहत है.
nahi, the whole being, like a person who is thirsty, has not drank water for 2-3 days, if he's caught in a desert, his whole, every cell of his body will be just thinking of water only. Or if the same person is hungry, the whole being, his mind will not be diverted to any other thought except food or hunger. The whole being will be yearning for water, yearning for food. Or some people, when the passion is aroused, they'll be yearning for a union with the sexual partner. That kind of a thing, all of us experience. That can be created actually. It can be created by imitating a mad person. You, even if you don't have that condition, he says towards the end he talks, no. He says if you like he says, now I give you a prescription, yearning pure and simple to reach him and him alone. If the real thing is not there to begin with, suppose you don't have a real yearning to begin with, just imitate it. It's a beautiful tip here. He says you can imitate it. If someone continuously imitates a mad person, he is bound to go mad. He is giving you all advices and this thing, how to have yearning also. He says you can imitate that condition. Then that will come. It will become real.
I think the example of yearning is given above, right? If the Lord be had at the cost of your head, you should know the bargain is quite cheap.
That is not an example of yearning. He is
Surrender.
giving the advantages of the bargain.
Surrender.
So suppose ये घर है, 10 crore का घर है, you can get it for, you do a simple operation and get it. The bargain is cheaper or something like that. It's he is trying to say the value of realizing God, the value of the presence of God and becoming a friend or a companion of God. That value is the highest value, and compared with the money you can earn, with the properties you own, with the name and fame you get, with the relationship you have, whatever phenomenal world offers you, which is unstable actually, which keeps on changing. I mean, the wealth doesn't stay with you, because when you die, you can't take the wealth. Name and fame, people will forget within few days, unless you have done extraordinary sacrifice in the name for whatever. People will forget quickly. Within a week, they'll forget. And name and fame, all those things are, when compared with the value of developing attachment with God, is very, very high. To explain that idea, he's telling that even if you give your head and if you get hurry, then he says that bargain is very cheap. So he is trying to tell you that if you give highest value to the presence of God in your heart, he's asking you to give highest value, because even if you lose your ego, give your head, if you die in the process also, the bargain is worthwhile. That's what he's trying to say. So if you contemplate on that, you will understand. I mean, all this attachment to a physical body, attachment to our ideas, mine includes your ideas, political ideas, all this is a phenomenal thing. They are just created imagination in your mind. They are just thoughts. They have got no connection to reality at all. So we give extraordinary importance to certain ideas in our mind about name, fame, about wealth and friendship and all that. They're all just, they mean nothing actually when compared with the real thing. But we give so much importance to all these phenomenal experiences, which are just mere thoughts arising in your mind, less like clouds move in the sky, something like that. So when compared with that, if your mind can know that God is the real goal of human life, and then attach yourself to that goal, he says, then even if you give your head as a bargain, you die or you sacrifice your head, it's still a very cheap bargain. That's the idea.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So when we are saying that the real goal of human life, are you really, you have to analyze yourself, analyze your own thoughts, introspect and see, are you really giving that value to that real goal, or are you giving value to your ego? I mean, your importance in society, or your importance to your wife, kids, family members, country, nation, all those things. Me and mine, they come under this. It's called in Sanskrit, it's called Gaunatman. Gaunatman means your house, your cows, your dogs, your car, property, wife, children, they are all called the Gaunatma. You have to surrender it. Then comes Mithyatma, the thinking this body and mind is your real self. once you know that this is an illusion, it's not your real self. Real self is the divine light without luminosity, from which you are never separate actually. So once you know that, you have to surrender this, renounce this idea that your body and mind is not the real thing, but behind it's just a place for the operation of the God actually. So unless you know that, you will not understand. So most people, they strongly believe that the phenomenal experiences they have about the presence of the body, about their car, house, and children, and all that, that's real. And then they don't really believe that God is the real goal of human life. And as you practice, as you proceed towards the destination, then God is the real goal. That becomes really alive, then you start really feeling that that's the real goal of human life. And then at some stage, he says the call bell to the beloved is pressed, and then then the whole magic happens. और कुछ है Shintre?
One Sanskrit word used, Gaunatma, means basically unimportant or having
No,
lower
no, no, no,
value.
not unimportant. They are,
Oh.
you see, they are also a reflection of God. They are also part of God. Is present in your wife, children, car. God is the reality. He is present in every atom and every particle. So he's present in your car, in your house, in your computer. That's not, but you are thinking that they belong to you is the wrong idea. They
Because
belong to
this
God. Attachment to those things is the problem.
feeling of possession.
Your attachment that these are mine, that is a problem. They are there. They have got their own value. You can't say that they are wrong, because that's what it is real as well as unreal. You can't say unreal because you are seeing, experiencing, you're living amongst the objects, and then you're interacting with the objects. Objects means people, animate, inanimate, and then you're deriving some happiness, pleasure, whatever. So you can't say it's unreal. But you can't say it's real. Real means it should not decompose and die, or, you cannot die also. Because you're dying, how can you call yourself real? So it's neither real nor unreal. So God is something beyond this real and unreal actually. That's what is meant by divine light without luminosity, on which we meditate.
Okay. Thank you. And the other word used, mithyatma, that can you give example?
Mithyatma is this thinking that that is one of the four wrong perceptions which human beings have, which constitute what is called avidya. That means ignorance is, we are ignorant about the reality. We think the four perceptions which are wrong, which causes ignorance, is thinking that temporary things are permanent, like this earth, sun, all these things which are, all these galaxies, everything, these we think they are permanent. Actually, they are not permanent. They are temporary actually. They'll be changing actually. And the second wrong perception is thinking impure things as pure. The body is actually impure. If you don't take bath, it will be smelling and all that. And we put on powders, scent and all that, and then we think that it's beautiful, and then we get attracted to it. So that's the wrong perception. Third is thinking pain as pleasure. What you think that you'll get pleasure in sensual objects. Sensual objects means not only physical things or physical relationships, but even attachment to mental ideas also is sensuousness. I mean, name and fame also comes under the category of sensual objects. So if you go after name and fame, after earning money, after seeking pleasures, basically, so that is actually pain. That is a wrong perception people have. People think that that is pleasure, but a yogi knows that what all people think as pleasure is actually pain. Fourth is thinking this body and mind as permanent in nature, but that is a wrong perception. This is the behind the mind is the real identity or your real self actually. So, but thinking that this body and mind is the real self is the wrong perception. So all these four, this mithyatma is the fourth wrong perception, and if you do meditation correctly on divine luminosity, all these 4 perceptions will change. They'll turn into true knowledge. Then you know that everything is changing, nothing is permanent. And then you know that what you thought body is very beautiful and all that, when you die, you don't keep the dead body even for 1 minute extra, you immediately burn it. Then you know that this body is not such worthwhile to preserve and all that. And then, ultimately everybody is going to die. So what's the point in fretting and fuming, ki main mar jaun, wo mar raha hai, crying? And that's what Krishna tells Arjuna, no, you don't, the person who kills does not know, a person who is killed also does not know. There is no death to the soul. So that perception will change. And then the perception about pleasure also changes. So, and then finally this mithyatman, that thinking that body and mind is the soul, that also disappears. If you're meditating correctly, and once this ignorance is gone, then you're liberated. Ego also is gone. और कुछ पूछना है क्या?
No, I think.
I will like to share. Somewhere I read in Dr. KCV's works that if we relate anything to the extent of duty only, we are unlikely to form any attachment.
Yeah, that's right. That is what Babuji is also telling you, that you do cleaning, and every work you're doing, you think that it is the command of the master, and then you're doing it as a duty or surrendering it to God. Then new impressions will not form. And then you quickly, mind becomes balanced. So every abhyasi, whenever he is doing any activity, he should think that it is the command of the God, and then you should do it as a duty. Duty means you don't care about the result of that work. The result, whether good happens, bad happens, it's God's responsibility, it's his headache. You have just surrendered, sacrificed that work to God, that's all. The whole burden of Bhagavad Gita is only about this only. And Babuji is an instruction. That Tinsukia message, it is there. We did a seminar on that also. That whatever work you're doing, think that it is the command of the master, and then do it as a duty. So if you don't follow that, then you'll be adding samskaras. Then, it is just like walking, you meditate for 1 hour in the morning. In that 1 hour, for a few minutes, you're absorbed in God. And then rest of the time, you take the phenomenal world to be real, and then you take 1 step forward and 3 steps backward. So then there is a progress possible. Progress is not possible at all.
So if the duty is done, we should not linger with that. Is it not?
ड्यूटी करना है, ड्यूटी भगवान को समर्पित करना है, sacrifice. You are doing it for his happiness. That's all. You cannot avoid duty. But only thing is that as long as you have ego, you have to practice, use this strategy that this duty I am doing it to make the master happy. So I should do this duty efficiently. A stage comes when, because of the practice of spirituality, the ego disappears, dissolves, negation happens. Then then it is just like pen is an instrument. Pen does not know that it is an instrument being used by somebody else. You do the work, you don't even know that you are an instrument also. You are in that Sahaja Samadhi condition, which is described again in Efficacy of Raj Yoga. There the question disappears. Good and evil, everything disappears, and then you are just an instrument of nature, that's all. But before that stage is reached, as long as you are aware of your sense of doership, you have to use this technique of surrendering to the master, Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender everything to God. Then the mind becomes pure. Once the mind becomes pure, then the radiance of divinity will shine in that mind. And then you know that God only is the real doer. You no more
is ready to pair.
No more under the illusion that you are the doer. You know that the energy is like, now I'm talking. How is it possible for me to talk? Because my heart is beating, my brain is functioning. How is the brain and heart functioning? It is not because I order it to function. It is functioning because God has created in such a way, and God's power is making my heart beat regularly, and it's making my brain nerves to function properly. So it's not because of my will it's working. It is the divine energy only which is working. You accept that reality and live in that harmony with that reality. Then you're leading a correct life. और कुछ है क्या चिंतरे?
No, sir.
Then
Okay,
we'll
sir.
meet next week then. Thank you.
Sure.